Hi, Chris Vincent, Head of Marketing with Datashield. It's April 2020, and like many of you, as you can tell, I'm working from home. The COVID-19 pandemic, it's changed a lot in the last few months. One of those major changes is a big increase in the amount of people working from home. How much has changed from a cybersecurity perspective, though? I posed this question to a few of our partners, and I talked to our own CISO, Jeff Marshall. I want to find out what's changed for organizations from a security standpoint, and what things are they doing to help mitigate those risks? Check it out.
You think about what has changed since the pandemic has occurred. It's what hasn't changed, really.
It's the things that that have changed that people aren't taking into consideration is when you go into a corporate office, you sit behind all of the advanced infrastructure. You sit behind all of the firewalls, all of the different various appliances that are taking and protecting you from the bad guys, as opposed to you come into your own personal home office and you're now out there on the wild, wild west.
The biggest challenge has been the lack of face-to-face meetings that we have normally occur on a day-to-day basis.
I think for customers, the real change is now there's some risk because all their employees are working remote. They're not sitting behind the firewall or the web gateway or some cloud application solution. There is challenges in that they're now isolated a little bit more. They may have access to other things that they didn't when they were sitting behind the corporate network. And I think with folks being remote, it does introduce some additional challenges.
I think if anything else, we've probably had a lot more proactive meetings.
I think that's the biggest thing everybody has, being on countless Zoom meetings every day and Microsoft Teams meetings and WebEx and switching between all these chat platforms and, Slack and collaborating, is a little bit of a challenge for people, but I think people are getting used to it.
As a marketer, it's really, really important to understand the current need of the market and the current need of your install and customer base. Because again, as a human, as a consumer, we know how often and how sort of obnoxious some messaging that have been flying over the wire, and the ability to help. Absolutely. We believe that that communication channel and reaching out to the market at large and your install base is absolutely understandable. But beyond that, I would call it ambulance chasing.
From a customer perspective, it's more about how they interface with the tools versus what their operations are.
They expanded so quickly. The rapidness on how they had to deploy technology to their additional remote workers has been probably their biggest challenge so far.
And if you can think of all of the needs from an IT perspective that were needed, it's very specific. We need gear to these employees who maybe have never worked from home. But at the time of a business disruption and the time of a pandemic, that need, just was incredibly overwhelming.
It's unprecedented because, it's what they always like to say. You never want to let a good disaster go to waste, and the threat actors are effectively doing that.
People are sitting at home on their laptops, they're exposed to their home networks or potentially, cell phone networks, and how do they stay protected, stay secure, and monitor all of that?
Organizations need visibility. They're going to need to understand where data lives. They're going to need to understand who is accessing what and why.
Threat actors wanting to take advantage of this situation, wanting to take and send. They want to pull at people's heartstrings. They want to, play on everybody's emotions to turn around and get them to open up their wallet or open up their network to potentially being compromised.
I think the risk has significantly increased. They've got a lot of additional work from home individuals that either have a organization or company asset that they have some controls and software in place, or maybe it's a bring your own device type of scenario.
A lot of organizations never anticipated having their entire workforce effectively working remotely. So there's connectivity concerns.
There's also a lot of varieties of different connections, whether it's VDI, cloud, internet, VPN, etc. And there's a lot of unknowns on how that's working or how comprehensively has it been deployed within the organization.
When we're talking about the move to a remote workforce, right, or the workforce transformation that we really have been seeing play out in the market now over the past 5 years, just rapidly happened all of a sudden, right? Across the world, organizations were saying, you have to work from home remotely.
From a remote workforce standpoint, it's all about visibility.
Training the users is the other aspect of it. I mean, that's half the battle because, to be honest, some filters are always going to let something through. Nobody's 100% perfect, and if they are, I wouldn't believe it. Like it's impossible to be 100% perfect.
You know, who's accessing your private information, your PII, who's accessing your customers' information, how are they getting access to it?
We're also just seeing a lot of that unknown traffic within the organization. With all these additional assets and different ways that people are connecting, there's a lot of anomalous behavior that maybe is appropriate, maybe it's not. And that's where just having that lack of visibility is of concern to a lot of these organizations.
Being on the front lines in this battle, we see those new threats coming across every day.
And so again, talking about a need in the moment, this need to provide convenient and secure access so that their employees can continue to do the work, so that they can continue to thrive is really important.
Over 90% of all threats come through email. Why? Because email is the most easily exploitable avenue. It's a wide open door that, they basically try to throw as much, traffic at it as they possibly can.
Phishing has gone up. I saw one report that said it's gone up in the last month, 667%.
I think another one is email. Obviously, people are getting phished. People try to take advantage of any natural disaster. It happened with Katrina. It happened with the nuclear disaster in Japan. Anytime something happens, people try to capitalize on that.
Users really are, one of the risks.
Ensuring that you have proper policies and procedures and monitoring in there for your users and emails, and proper user education is more important now than it ever has been.
Let's look at specifically what they're doing with COVID-19. With COVID-19, they're, again, pulling on people's heartstrings saying, oh, look at this poor individual or this poor community, donate money here, or, click here, and all of a sudden now you're a Bitcoin farmer.
And that's how breaches happen.
I think this, for better or worse, this whole thing kind of is changing the way business works.
There definitely will be changes.
It's hard to predict what's going to happen with this whole remote workforce situation. I don't know what new tricks or techniques the bad guys are going to introduce, but I guarantee you that they will. They're going to come out with some new stuff, and we're going to have to be responsive and fight that battle and prevent them from succeeding.
We are now proving the fact that we as, information workers specifically, can now effectively work remotely from home. It doesn't matter where we're at.
Many organizations, this move to remote work is going to stick in places.
So I think what we knew as the norm at roughly 25% of the individuals working remote should probably potentially double or land somewhere between that, 25 and 90-ish%. Then what do we do next?
Cybersecurity, risk management, fundamentally are made of individuals who are always trying to think of what's next. And so when this surge goes back to normal, whatever our new normal turns out to be, these employees go back to their normal day job. Who remembers to revoke that entitlement? Who remembers to say they shouldn't have access to those systems? So there's a long tail to governance and life cycle around identities, permissions, controls that we're already seeing our customers start to think through. And that is really going to be an important sort of second wave, we believe, from an identity perspective that customers will deal with.
Acceptable use policies and things like that are going to get revamped to try to adjust to what people are doing at home.
The role of employees has also changed.
You have to protect the user, no matter where they are. And from a security perspective, I think, that's our initiative, is to try and help our customers protect all their users, no matter where they reside.
Security is no longer, a dark art done in the basement by somebody in a hoodie, right? And that by, leveraging technology, by leveraging new ways of working together and understanding one another, we can continue to innovate. And I think that's going to be a theme moving forward.
it's in this quest to, fight this never-ending fight against the bad guys. They're never going to stop innovating and creating new threats to get stuff past filters or compromise people. And our job is to keep up with them and fight them head on. We have to adapt. We have to innovate. We have to never stop investing in the technology. And
what could I have done better? The next time this happens, how can I be better prepared? Where was I missing controls? Did I understand all of my risks? Maybe we moved very quickly because we had to in the eye of the storm. Let's go back and assess and make sure that this is pulled into our overall risk assessment.
And I can tell you the things that especially healthcare workers and others have to deal with has been a real big eye-opener for me. And it's really put things in the light that we're very fortunate to help out and provide some of our customers, service when their businesses are hurting, and security stays the same. It's still a people problem and a processing problem. So I think as we move forward, it's continuing to get visibility into your networks, and more and more there's outsourced providers out there to help.